Another way we will write equations today is when given a graph. So let's take a look at an example. Example 3 says, write an equation of the line shown. So whenever given a graph, the first thing I like to do is identify the y-intercept. The y-intercept is where the graph line crosses the y-axis. An easy way to find this is to go to the top of the graph where it has the y label and go down the axes until you hit your graph line. I'm going to hit my line here. So that means my y-intercept is going to equal -1. Next, we have to find the slope, because if you remember, y equals mx plus b is my equation, where m represents my slope and b represents my y-intercept. So now I need to find my slope. I can find my slope from a graph by using rise over run. Now, before I start using rise over run, I actually like to draw a person on my line because it helps me determine if my line is positive or negative. So because my person always walks from left to right, in this instance, they would be walking up. And so that means that my line is positive. Once I've established that my line is positive, I really don't have to do anything in terms of a negative or any. The second step after drawing my person is to draw a right triangle connecting two dots that are on my line. So I'm going to choose this one and this one. Once I have my right triangle drawn, then I can count my boxes to see what my rise and run should be. Now, it's important to note that you do want to make sure that you pay attention to what the scale. So on my scale, I am counting by 1, so that means each one of my boxes is going to count as 1. So 1, 2 for my run. So my run would be 2. And my rise, 1, 2, 3, 4. My rise would be 4. So then my rise over run would be 4 over 2. Now we want to simplify the fraction whenever we can. So that means my slope is going to equal 2. So once I've identified my slope and my y-intercept, then I just have to plug it into my equation. So my equation would be y equals 2x minus 1. And that would be the equation for this graph line. Let's look at another example. Example 4 says, write the equation of the line shown. Once again, the first thing I would like to do is identify my y-intercept. So here's my y. I go down my axis until I hit my graph line, and that is going to be my y-intercept. In this case, my y-intercept is going to equal a positive 1. The next thing I want to do is calculate my slope using rise over run. When doing that, first thing I want to do is draw my person. Now remember, the person walks from left to right. So if they were to walk left from right on this line, they would be going down. And if my line is going down, that means my line is negative. So before I even start to calculate rise over run, I want to go and put a negative where the rise would be, so that I know that when I finish my rise over run, that it's going to actually give me a negative slope, and I won't forget about that negative sign. So then my next step is to connect my 2 points using a right triangle. And then I'm going to count the boxes for my rise and my run. Once again, pay attention to the scale. I'm still counting by ones, so each one of my boxes will be a 1. So my rise, 1, 2, 3, 4. And my run would just be 1. Remember, we want to simplify the fractions whenever we can. So -4 over 1 is just going to equal -4. So that means that my slope equals -4. Now that I have the 2 pieces of information I need to write my equation, I can simply write my equation. Y equals -4x plus 1. So that would be the equation for the graph line to the right.